Anybody who has a phone, silence your phone, please. I don't want to hear it ringing during the meeting. We're all so busy. Okay, good evening, welcome. This is the Goffstown Planning Board's regular scheduled meeting, the second of the month as usual. We will begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We will do a roll call to the board members, starting with Joanne.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Mark LeMay, Selectman's Rep.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Tim Redmond.
Kimberly Peace.
Barbara Griffin.
Richard Freeman.
David Pierce, I'm an alternate member.
Tim Searles.
David, you will be voting on all matters this evening, sir.
Thank you.
Now we have minutes from April the 9th.
I'd like to make a correction to my last name.
Do you want to change your name or do you want to
You
change
have
the
to do
minutes?
that legally, Tim, you can't do that.
Can't change my name, is this a place to do it? My name was misspelled on the minutes. That's it.
Here? No S?
No S.
No S under election of chair and vice chair. Motion to approve is corrected. Second.
Motion to approve is corrected. Any other corrections for the minutes that has not been recognized? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Abstention.
One abstention, motion passes.
Here you go. Let's see how much.
Now we have to sign appointment papers at the end of the meeting for Tim to go to CIP Community at Large. And I think that's it for correspondence and action items. Joanne, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. We have no old business tonight, but we do have new business items, and I'll let Joanne. We're gonna do this the right way for a change. Map 17, lot 176. Barbara?
Joanne, is the application complete?
Yes, it is, and there's no regional impact.
And this is an application for a CUP?
Yes, it's a CUP application for two driveways that are less than 100 feet apart from one another. This is for a duplex.
Thank you. I make a motion to...
Is there any waivers?
No waivers.
No waivers.
I make a motion to find the application for map 17 lot 176 is complete, that there's no regional impact, and accept it for consideration of the request of the CUP.
I have a second?
Second.
Sure. Any discussion or motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. So Joanne, could you please tell us what this application is about?
Yes, this is for a commercial property on College Road that originally had a house there. There was a fire that destroyed the house back in January of 2005. The new owner purchased the home, or purchased the property, I should say, and built a duplex, and they wanted to have two separate driveways for the duplexes because the garages are on either side. And unfortunately, they don't have the distance. They have 21 feet versus 100 between the two. The ordinance also requires 300 feet of frontage in the commercial zone for the two driveways, and they have 227 feet. The lot is an odd-shaped triangular lot, and the driveway permit was denied, so they're here for a conditional use permit to allow the two driveways.
So how far back does the denial for the driveway permit go?
How far back.
Yeah, was it denied at the time the building application was made?
It was not.
It was not. So they
There's an
went
approved-
ahead,
There's an approved driveway permit that was only one driveway.
so they went ahead and built it without having the proper permission. That's what I'm hearing?
The two driveway entrances have not been constructed yet.
Right.
There's still only one,
The existing one.
the existing curb cut.
Okay.
The permit was denied on April 3rd.
Right.
I'm sorry, yes, April 3rd.
Yeah, April 3rd.
Yeah.
So I just take a little bit of
Yeah.
umbrance with the fact that this wasn't taken care of when the building permits were issued,
So-
as opposed to waiting until the building is built, and now it's begging forgiveness, in my opinion.
So if everyone would like one, I have their original plan. That was with their approved driveway permit. That's it.
Okay?
Mark, pass it over to. So that, they do have, like I said, they do have an approved driveway permit. That was the approved driveway. So that's why they were able to get their building permit.
Because of the 35-foot wide asphalt.
It's
apron.
already a curb cut, that width, even though it's.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because that was there and existed.
Yep, so they tried to make it work with the opening
No, I
that
don't
was
have
there.
Yeah, this is something else.
And there was previously a duplex on that site?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll ask the applicant when we get there.
That's before the house.
Everybody got the copy?
It doesn't look anything like that now. If David wants that, give that to David.
Was it a duplex or a,
Well, we can't ask them just yet, because they haven't been recognized. We'll get to that, Tim, thank you. Okay, would you have any questions for the staff, either the Public Works or the town staff, before we open this up to the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question.
Please.
Scott, so thank you for bringing this original drawing from last year with what the plan was to just use the existing curb cut. From DPW's perspective, considering the road and what you'd like to see, is there any particular advantage or disadvantage to either one of the driveway plans?
I mean, the disadvantage to the entrances, multiple,
The
being
two-
so close to each other, it's just an access point, and it's not likely that two vehicles will be leaving these entrances at the same time, but there can be confusion with that from the people leaving or the person on the roadway itself. But like I said, the likelihood of that isn't super high. The old design isn't ideal. Without seeing some kind of turning movement, I'm not sure how easy it is to back out of or into that garage on the north side.
The north side is probably easier than the south side one, with the turnaround.
North is on the left side.
yeah, north is on the left.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, and so then my other question, and maybe this is for fellow board members, we have run into the situation, these are one-car garages, and just for purposes of trying to figure out turning movements and what's better and what's not. What's the amount of space we like to see in a driveway for the second vehicle that we know is gonna show up?
like 20 feet is good for like a full-size pickup to be parked.
Okay.
And they have
30?
30, so that would still keep the
No,
sidewalk clear.
Well, 30's too,
We're talking about on their own property.
yeah,
Oh,
They have 22
Yeah.
on, from what I can see on
but
the
that's
original.
enough for a pickup truck?
yeah, and that's about how big you'd want a parking spot to be. That's what our regulations is now, right, Joanne? We moved it up to 20? Yeah.
Okay, because so I wanted to know that your preference and if we're leaving enough on each plan for a full-size vehicle
Yeah,
to park.
honestly, I'm not sure the original plan would really, the one entrance, they'd probably pull in with the second one into the turnaround. And then you've got this jockeying that you'd have to do if someone needed to leave the garage.
That's their problem.
Yeah, I'm just,
No, I got it. Okay, those were my questions. Just
Well,
some-
under the new state rules, they only need to have room for one car, so there's plenty of room.
I just wanted to make sure that lengthwise piece was, okay, thank you.
In the second drawing, the requested drawing, they have turnarounds for both
Correct. I see that.
versus the old one has only one.
Okay, any other questions for staff from board members? Seeing none, well, Mr. Boschman, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Alden Boschman from Keelan Enterprises. I'm here tonight on behalf of Surratt, owner of property management, Bill Surratt. With me in the crowd is the builder himself, Ron Pellerin. But, yeah, so, like you had discussed, we didn't realize when we started construction there was going to be a problem with permit for the driveway. We thought it was pretty clean cut. They needed to get going and cleaning up the site and start construction, so we did take and process the plan and got approval for what you just discussed. And, you know, it does work, it's just not the most desirable situation. So this situation here, in my mind, is actually better. I mean, you know, anytime you can separate people, this is a duplex. There was a duplex here before. As you know, it was burnt. It was an eyesore. What they've built now is a beautiful house. That's a picture of the construction at this point. And
So, excuse me, Alden, those are two-car garages, not one car, as Barbara mentioned?
Ron?
They're 22, or 16 wide by 24 deep, so it's like a car and a half. Because it'd be tight to get
Yeah.
two small vehicles in there.
Okay, thank you.
So, but as you can see, I mean, obviously, you know, it's not a bad thing. And the good news is you're actually, from a drainage standpoint, the site originally had a house. The total impervious area was 5,100 square feet. This new configuration was 39. You'll notice on this plan, we've allowed for all types of infiltration on the drip edges and the back. But even the separation of the driveway, this all becomes grass. So instead of runoff just running directly down through there, you actually have a buffer of grass, which isn't a bad thing. So in any case, it just seemed like it was a great improvement. And so that's why we put together the application we did. We thought it was going to be really easy. We went through the regulations, and I've got an outline if you want me to go through the criteria. Or questions?
Well, before we start that,
Yeah.
so what regulations were they not meeting, Scott, the separation?
Separation, which, and this is technically, well, it's not technically, it is in the commercial, which requires 100 feet between driveways, and then they don't have enough frontage for the second driveway, which they have 227, does that sound right?
Yes.
And they need, and the requirement is 300.
So Joanne, why aren't we seeing a waiver request for separation, for the separation on the driveways, as opposed to a conditional use permit without a waiver request?
They're both in the zoning, so they're conditional use permits.
It says it right in the zoning,
Yeah.
that's what's required.
Under-
So both of those requirements are in the ZO.
It's
I'll
under.
take your word for it, but I just don't understand why if there's a
So
standard.
section 7.4,
I'm
Page
sure
are we
we're
on?
probably
431.
61, I double one because my one was tabbed out and I'm going to
This is
retab.
the
7.4?
7431.
Here.
7.4.
See one here, right?
7.431.
This is the existing. I'm just trying to get you a bigger.
So if,
So what's happened is the whole house has gone like
so
this.
relief from the zoning ordinance,
It says it's in there specific.
how come it doesn't require a variance then if it's relief from the zoning
So there's
ordinance?
something in here that states.
Because it allows the planning board to act on it, driveways.
7.42. Well,
7.4.3?
I thought it was 7.42.
Oh, I'm just looking at the permit application.
Yeah, 7.4.2, the last
Okay.
sentence there, where compliance cannot be achieved with these standards, the planning board may grant a conditional use permit pursuant to section 7.5, alternative parking arrangements.
So doesn't alternate parking arrangements require commitment for other people to accept cars? Isn't that what alternate parking arrangements are? We had that in previous applications.
Yes,
Unless I'm-
but that's not what they're doing.
Well,
Yeah, this 7.4.2 is specifically talking about separation of drive. Well, that's residential, actually.
7.4.3.1. Says that you have to have 100 feet from other existing driveways on the same lot.
since residential use.
Yeah, 7.4.2 is in the residential districts, though. 7.4.3 doesn't really specify a conditional use permit.
Please.
So, did they have to get a waiver to construct this in the commercial zone? Or was it grandfathered because it was there before?
And yes, and because it was being replaced, because it was, had burned down.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they didn't need a waiver?
No.
If I can add to, the existing driveway entrance was a total of 35 feet. So we're actually scaling that back, so we end up, instead of 35 feet, we end up with two driveways of 18, which is 36.
Then can you show the picture again?
Yep.
And that's as
this one
constructed
says
now,
non.
right?
That picture was taken yesterday. Yeah, Ron's been working as hard as he can. So still got a little ways to go.
Okay.
I remember driving by it and having whiplash. I'm like,
Oh, okay, I don't know why I missed that.
Is a
Yeah.
non, 7.3 is non-residential.
Yeah.
So the actual separation notation is 7.4.3.1.
Yeah, it's, and
which
Ken
is what I,
pointed out to me, which I somehow just skipped over that entire one. 7.4.3 is for non-residential, it says, grant the conditional use
Yeah.
permit.
which you had right on the, that's where I got the number from before, because you had it on that. You had it.
So
That's
where,
Eric,
so
that's
Scott,
Oh, that was Eric?
so where in the ordinance do we talk about separation of driveways?
It's in that same area.
Well, then, why don't you show me where it is, Joanne?
It's in the end of the first sentence, Tim.
Yeah,
Which one?
7.4.3.1.
7431, just about 3/4 of the way into the sentence. At least 100 feet from any other existing driveways of the
Okay,
same.
thank you. On the same lot or an adjacent lot.
Yeah, and then the
So,
one below it, the last sentence is the one about one driveway permitted in the lot for each additional 100.
so I just don't understand how a conditional use permit grants relief without some other, because it doesn't, if you answer all the questions on the conditional use permit, it's not in keeping with the other properties on the road if you're putting them 21 feet apart when 100 is required. It doesn't meet the criteria for the one question.
Well, he's he has the criteria that he'll go
Well, he'll
over.
go over with us, but I'll let him answer, see what he says. Okay, any other questions regarding the application's request for this new driveway? Alden, could you please continue? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yep. Just to go through the criteria real quickly, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points.
We'll let everybody get caught up and find their copy of it so they can follow along with you. It's in his application.
It is.
It's on page 5 of the staff report.
Staff. Okay, sir.
Yep, the first one there, the use is specifically authorized in the Goffstown zoning ordinance as a conditional use. I thought it was 7.42, but it sounds like it's 7.43.1. The second one, if completed as proposed by the applicant, the development in the proposed location will comply with all requirements of the section with specific conditions or standards established in the ordinance for this particular use. This site, as we discussed, was a prior two-family house that was destroyed by fire on 1/22/2025 and has been replaced in the same house garage location with a new two-family house in greater conformity. Third criteria, the use will be compatible with the neighborhood and with adjoining or abutting users in the area in which it is located. I think everybody's familiar with this particular section of College Road. It's surrounded with other residential homes uphill from that. The proposed use, is consistent with the properties. The fourth criteria, the use will not have any substantial adverse impact on vehicle or pedestrian safety. The proposed driveway allows for a separate turnaround on each site, which helps to improve vehicle and pedestrian safety. So the way, obviously, this configuration, while it was approvable as a driveway permit, more than likely this particular guy, well, unless we do a hammerhead here too, but, and that's possible. But, you have somebody back out. Here, the cars, the way it's designed, there's a turnaround for each, and you'll be able to turn around and back up, drive out safely. The fifth criteria, the use will not have any substantial adverse impact or appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood. In evaluating the visual impact, the planning board may consider architectural 125 and design elements. As you saw, this new two-family house is much more desirable than the prior drug house that was there. And so I think the neighbors have been extremely happy, and so it's been a good thing for the neighborhood. And then the last criteria, the use shall be adequately serviced by necessary public utilities by the community, facilities and services of sufficient capacity to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use. The additional proposed driveway access better serves the separate two-family houses and helps reduce the width of the existing driveway apron. So as I discussed earlier, the existing driveway apron is actually 35 feet wide. And so instead of 35 feet, we just simply divided it and we have 18 feet. Questions?
Board members, questions for the applicant? No questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing at this time. If anybody would like to speak on this application, now's the time to identify yourself and come forward and speak. I don't see anybody here. We're going to close public hearing. Board members. Anybody have any additional questions or issues to discuss with the applicant?
I have a couple comments.
Barbara, please.
There was no public comment, so these are not issues, I'm assuming, that are going to come forward, but it would seem that if I'm looking at your drawn lines for the drawing for the proposed driveways, there seem to be some boundary issues on this lot that the applicant, I'm assuming, is working on in regards to the iron pin in the middle of an abutter's driveway access, and the fence that's over the existing fence that's over the line, and I understand that's not it, and I waited to see if anybody was going to say anything from the public, because they got notices, so.
Yeah, so both the neighbors, Bill Surratt owns
Right, yeah.
He bought this, and he's good friends with his folks, and ultimately they're going to, the abutters actually encroaching on this property, and they both know about it.
Okay.
And to correct it down the road, Bill was going to grant him an easement.
Yeah, that's on your original.
It was on the original, but it was recommended to me to take it off at this point, not to confuse the issue. And
That's all right, I brought it up anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
even without it there, but,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I do think this is a little bit of the applicant begging for forgiveness rather than asking for permission. I'm not sure having a 32-foot opening is any worse than having two 18-feet one for purposes of people driving on the road and not being sure what's happening. 32 feet is pretty big, and it's the old Google Maps pictures. You can really get a good idea of how big it was. And I think as a practical reality, it's pretty obvious that's what's going to happen. There's going to be at least 2 cars in each one of these duplexes, and these turnarounds are really providing a parking space because the garages, as a practical matter, aren't going to be big enough for 2 cars, and there might be 3. So to that extent, this layout provides better parking off-street for who's ever in the duplex. So.
Well, there actually is no parking on the street. It's not wide enough, even though they will park on the street.
Right.
They can't, it's not legal. They'd be
I'm
parking in
being
the travel lane.
practical as to what is going to happen in this neighborhood, which, while it's commercial, is a residential neighborhood. So
Realistic.
I think it's probably a better plan for the building and for the street.
Anybody else?
I agree with Barbara.
I have no concerns.
Anybody else? Well, time to move the application then.
I'll move to approve, finding that the criteria for conditional use permit have been met as set forth in section 15414, and have the record reflect what was presented by the applicant as contained in the administrative staff report for the basis.
I'll second.
Joanne, have we covered everything we need to cover for this application in terms of approval for it's only an approval for a conditional use permit? Is that where?
Yes, so the one condition would be that a driveway permit is required for the DPW.
Well, isn't that why we're doing this?
Right, but we want to make that a condition so that they make sure
Okay,
they
with
go
that
forward with it.
condition.
Okay.
I'll second the change, yeah.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm opposed. So we have 2 opposed? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
So long, Holden.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Aye.
Okay, we are Second application tonight, Joanne, could you please tell the board what's going on?
Yes, this is an application that you have already seen back in December of 2025. There was a subdivision in Ware that is on hold right now. They're waiting for the approval from the Goffstown Planning Board before they take final action on it. But it's a subdivision of a 20-acre open space cluster consisting of 62 acres. And there's one lot that's as they design their subdivision, there's just one lot that's in Goffstown. The remainder is all in Ware. And they would like to include that lot as part of the open space. They did try and see if anyone was interested in purchasing it, perhaps maybe the golf course, but no one seemed to be interested, so they thought the best thing to do would be included into the open space. So they're here tonight to get the board's approval so that they can move on with the town of Ware and get their final approval so that they can get started with this.
This application is complete, Joanne?
Yes, it is, and there is regional impact.
There is regional impact
Yes.
and all the requirements of notification have
Yes,
been made.
Southern New Hampshire Planning was notified as well as the town of Ware. Now, you will find a letter, I think it was just laid down on the table, from Southern New Hampshire Planning. But those are really the conditions when they first reviewed it, and they're just repeating them over again because that's what they had to say in the first place. But all of those things really apply to Ware and not this board.
They don't have anything to do with the land that's in Goffstown.
No.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the application for map 7, lot 46-1, for, what are we doing?
That's complete.
For the subdivision
Subdivision.
approval, finding that the application is complete and that the regional impact which it has, the requirements for notification have been met.
And there's no waiver requested?
No.
Okay, Barbara's made a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Tim, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Joanne, could you please give us the rest of the skinny on this?
Yes, so none of the departments had any comments on this, and we did include some suggestions for approval, which are the normal things, the template conditions, because we do still have to record the plan and make sure all the pertinent information is covered, and we have copies of it for our files and electronic copies and all of that. So those are the items listed.
Is anyone here to represent this application tonight?
He's right there.
Does any board members have questions for staff before I introduce the applicant?
I guess I have a procedural question. I wasn't here when this was introduced. It's okay for me to see it tonight and vote on it tonight?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
When it came
You're an
in,
elected member.
in December, when it came in, it was here for the board to comment on the regional impact only at that point.
And there was some hope they wouldn't have to come back because the lot would be dealt with differently.
Good evening. For the record, your name, sir?
Russ Huntley.
Russ Huntley?
I'm the owner of Huntley Survey and Design, and we're the surveyors that prepared the plan.
Thank you. Okay, so tell us what's going on.
Well, we have actually, what we're doing is...
You can be very brief if you'd like, because we like brevity.
So do I. So we're proposing this cluster subdivision where, and when I surveyed it, we realized there's some of this land's in Goffstown, and we've tried different ways, as was said, see if somebody wanted to do boundary line adjustment, we could not have it be part of the cluster subdivision, but none of that went. So we're going to have the orange area here. It's part of our open space. It's essentially going to stay status quo. What it looks like now is what it's going to be. And I believe the conservation, we're going to have a conservation easement across the part where the owners are going to hold. And I assume that they'll hold this part here as well.
Who's going to maintain the conservation easement in the town of Ware? Are you deeding it to a land trust, or
The owners themselves are going
the
to.
owners themselves?
Yeah. We couldn't get anybody else to buy it.
How
Or
about,
take-
who's going to be the steward of the property?
I would expect the owners, or maybe their designee, I don't know. Designated
I just
surveyor.
ask if the PLC or any of those other groups is taking over the stewardship of the land.
There's not enough land and it needs something abutting of some significance for them to be interested in it.
Well, I'm asking the question because it does warrant asking.
Yeah, no, we've tried there, nobody was interested in being the steward, or I contacted a couple different conservation groups and just nobody wanted it. The Conservation Commission in town didn't want to hold it.
They don't want to steward it.
Yeah.
Board members?
Nothing for me.
Did the town of Ware place any requirements for you for open space designation to placard the boundaries or anything?
Yes, we have to monument and blaze all the boundaries, so that would be pertinent for this parcel as well.
So the new line that will run in Goffstown will also be placarded at some interval of
It'll be
some?
blazed right along the perimeter.
Along the
yeah.
perimeter.
When you say blaze, you're talking about notch the trees and cut and color them?
Yeah, notch and paint.
And that's all that town of Ware required? Okay,
How long does that last?
not long. Bark grows over it.
Uh,
And how about the back of the lots? Is it the same thing on the lots? The lots have the same markings, shall I say?
Yes, so they'll all be monumented on the back, and we propose putting like one of those metal fence posts
Yeah?
and paint it orange, so, because sometimes rebars are hard to find in the winter. And then again, all those lines will be blazed as well.
Well, that's good, because we do that so that people won't go cut the trees in the open space and start building their sheds in the open
That was
space.
kind of the idea, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Is that shown on the plans? Because that is not actually shown on the plans.
The blazing?
Yeah.
Uh,
So on sheet, what am I on? So this overall sheet does show the brass disc and the granite bounds, but then it doesn't show anything on the back of the lots, unless it's on a different sheet.
That's something we just haven't added.
That might be a condition of approval.
The condition of approval is going to have a note with the blazing and all that.
Okay.
Joanne, when we submitted our regional impact statements to Ware, do you know what we sent as regional impact statements?
I don't think I have that here.
Do you have a recollection of what was sent?
I wasn't here in December.
I believe there was a road that you guys asked that we wouldn't use when construction was happening. And off the top of my head, I can't think of
It's
the
Parker
road.
Station.
Yep.
Which you can't use anyway.
If you ever driven down there, the trucks use it all the time. So there's no enforcement, unfortunately. Okay. So I just wanted to know, from your standpoint, Joanne, did the Ware Planning Board respond positively to our requests for regional impact? And
So
I'm hearing-
I did reach out just the other day to the Ware planning office and asked if these were the final plans, and she just like sent me these plans and said, these are the latest plans that I have.
Okay.
But it wasn't, I didn't receive a lot of information,
So
so.
we can ask the developer as well as the surveyor to come up and identify themselves and speak on the record regarding the questions, and you can make a statement for our board on the
Or we can
record.
make them a condition.
That's what I was just gonna say, that if you have something that you're concerned about, I would include it as a condition.
Well, I would
because
like to ask,
you're signing this plan as well as the town of Ware.
Okay, but on the record, I'd like the gentleman to come up that spoke about the Parker Station Road and identify himself.
So,
And-
just, well, it's still in my head. Note 17 on the cover does say the limits of the open space is to be glazed and painted.
John Hardy.
But then also 16 says that the open space located in Ware to be held in conservation by the Ware Conservation Commission, so
You need to change that. no?
We need to, because
they don't want
they're
it.
saying no.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, just-
So, John,
just
are you-
17
saw
has a
that.
typo.
John, are you saying that the Ware Planning Board agreed that they are going to restrict, as a condition of approval for your project, any construction traffic from using Parker Station Road to access the site for the construction of that project?
I believe it's from you guys, from Goffstown,
Yeah.
not to use that. Not the Ware side.
But we can put it in as a condition of approval, but I was wondering if Ware had recognized that and stated it as a condition of approval.
yes, they said that was part of our process, is the regional impact comments that you guys provided, we had to adhere to.
Okay, thank you, John.
Which you know the trucks are going the other way.
We know the
The
trucks.
Boltons anyways.
All right. All right, folks, this is a pretty simple request, unless we have questions. And how about the Southern Hampshire Planning document, Joanne? Is this something we have to consider?
Those are the recommendations that they had made when the plans came to you in December.
Yeah, we had already seen this.
And
This has already been
they
forwarded to...
also- Yeah, and they also sent them to the town of Ware.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
already seen them.
Okay, good. As long as you've got 'em.
I met with David Tilton on site, who's the one that wrote this memo.
So we're asking for a subdivision approval, Joanne, is that what we're asking for?
Yeah.
And are we basing it off of a recommendation from the town of Ware, or how do we state this for the
The-
record?
Well, the request is from the owner, which is land, the AMS Properties LLC. They're requesting that both towns agree that this lot can be included in the open space.
I'll make a motion to approve that land located in Goffstown at map 7 lot 46-1 may become part of an open space development at map 412 lot 104 in Ware, New Hampshire, subject to the conditions of the Ware approved plan and the conditions of approval recommended by staff, numbers 1 through 6, page 9 of the staff administrator's report.
You mentioned the conditions of approval, Barbara? I was trying to write at the same time.
Condition,
1 through 6?
Yep.
Did you have any other conditions that you? I thought you were talking about adding something.
Well,
Well,
I think we should reaffirm the no use of Parker Station Road as a condition of approval for us.
No
even
use
though-
of Parker Station, adding that there will be no use of Parker Station Road in Goffstown for construction on this site, and that the limits of the open space will be glazed and painted to include the boundaries specifically on the lot located in Goffstown.
So that's number 7?
That would be 7 and 8. 7 would be no use of Parker Station Road. 8 would be the boundary as specific, as part of our condition of approval. I think their cover sheet will handle it.
I have a question.
Please.
It's more of a, I guess, a technical
Wait a minute, can we have a second?
There's a motion on the floor, second.
Okay,
Second.
was it second? Okay,
It wasn't
yeah.
seconded.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to lose the motion.
So did you second it, Richard?
Yes.
Okay, sir, ask your question.
Well, as far as actually getting Mylars and plans to everybody, I didn't know, I assume both boards have to sign the Mylars. I know Ware won't sign it until we have state subdivision approval and alteration of terrain. So that could be down the road a little bit. So I get their approval and their signature on the Mylar and then bring it here. That would be the process, bring it here. Okay.
Yeah, myself or the vice chair signs the plan.
Okay.
So we have a fairly long motion which covered a lot of items for basically approving a subdivision request for a subdivision that's in Ware, adding the open space in Goffstown with conditions 1 through 8. Please.
I think this is more internal than anything else. So I noticed on your cover sheet, there's 19 notes. It says DES subdivision approval and alteration of terrain. Aren't you also going to need a wetland permit to get that road in?
Nope,
It's messy right there, but it looks like you see your wetland ended right there.
it goes right up to the edge of the road there,
Okay.
where it first enters. It's the only place that we didn't have to cross wetlands, so.
All right, that's good, thank you.
Anything else? Board members? I have a motion on the floor. Any more questions? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
So we'll be looking for that Mylar when you want to get a signature. It probably will be possibly 3 to 5 days by the time it gets delivered to the office and one of us, because we don't get paid, just hang around the office and wait for signatures. So. Well, you know something? I'm going to hold off on your room because I never opened the public hearing, folks. I think I heard it. So we're gonna hold off on you leaving with your approval, and I'm gonna open the public hearing in case that gentleman wants to speak. He just had his hand up.
I speak here, over there.
You want to speak? Come on up to the chair there and state your name for the record and your
Tim
address.
Matheson, 80 River Road, Ware.
What's your first name?
Tim.
Tim Matheson. Please, sir.
Go ahead.
So I am in a butter. I was just wondering, you say the conservation people of Ware don't want
Sir,
that.
if it's a Ware subdivision, we don't have any authority over anything in Ware. We are here to accept the open space in Goffstown. It's sort of a, I don't know, what's the proper word for it? We're just sort of either going to agree with them or not, and we agreed with them tonight in terms of it's their subdivision, not ours. So I'll let you ask your questions, but we may not have any answers for you.
Okay.
And we don't debate between public comment and the applicants. There's no discussion between anybody. That's not what public comment is.
Okay.
So if you have public comment, we'd love to hear it from you, and we'll put it in the record.
Okay, so there's a house on that lot. Can you tell?
I don't know.
Could I be
anything about
told where the house is on that lot? Would it be connected to,
it. I don't know anything about that, sir. If it's on there, on what, on the open space lot?
on the open space, would any of that open space be connected to this lot in Goffstown to become as one?
Okay, I'm gonna take your comments, and we're not gonna answer questions, so we don't answer questions. So your question is, there's a house on the open space in Goffstown?
I'm not sure where it is, I just wondered if you
Okay,
could
you're
point
saying
it
there
out.
possibly is. And is that house gonna be connected to the open space?
Correct.
Connected to the subdivision as a separate lot, are you asking?
Either or.
Either or, okay. All right, so we have that. I'm gonna keep going with this. I'm just writing down what the gentleman said.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to find, yeah.
I don't think that there's a.
Okay, now I'm gonna say, we're gonna try to get an answer for you, even though it's generally improper, but I'm going to ask the surveyor to answer. Can you answer the question for that gentleman? Or is that improper for you?
No,
Well,
I
he
think
can
I
answer it for us.
There's actually two structures there. One is there used to be, I guess, a shooting range. So there's one little shed.
Why don't, if you don't mind, why don't you go to,
Kind of show us, get the map, kind of show us where you think it is.
So this is not the same subdivision. This is
What's that, the,
it's like a little hunting camp.
wait a minute, is it in the Goffstown section?
no,
or
no,
where?
no,
Where?
it's in the where.
Oh, we have no concern about that.
Yeah. And
Well,
it's-
we're-
Can you point that out to me?
yeah, this is.
Oh, there's two, here's the two.
Is
Right
there one
there
in
at the end of
Boston?
that road.
No,
No.
one is near the road and one is in the open space.
Okay, well, I think those are questions that should be asked and answered at the Ware Planning Board. Not us.
I didn't know where it was, so.
Well, appreciate you coming in and asking, but
You're in Goffstown.
Excuse me?
You're in Goffstown.
Well, I realize that.
Some days I don't know, that's why I just thought I'd help you out. So, well, I mean, I'd like to know,
You
just,
can see on the overall plan.
yeah,
on page
I can
two.
see two, one is in the open space and one
So,
looks like
maybe
it's,
we
The
should
ones
let,
like in the cul-de-sac.
maybe
Yeah.
we should let Russ just finish what he was saying. One was a
Yeah.
little shooting cabin or something.
Yeah, and the other one is an old hunting camp.
How big is it?
20 by 20 or something.
Is it falling down or
Yeah.
is it gonna be demolished? I mean,
Yes.
they're all shaking their head yes. Is that satisfactory?
So the- so
Not
the-
really, because it's like 2 stories tall,
Well,
probably 30 by 40.
you're gonna need to talk with them and the town aware about that, please.
Yeah,
I think
It was
it's-
a 112-acre rabbit pen at one time.
This is the discussion is closed at this meeting right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
a rabbit pen. Huh.
Well, it's not the only one, because there's one up in the town land and where, up where the septic fields are, it's all encased so they could hunt something else up there. Some other name I'm not gonna say, because I used to maintain the property. I'm not gonna slander anyone's name at a public meeting. Okay. So we had a vote, we're gonna close the public hearing, unless there's anyone else that wants to speak.
I don't see any reason to reconsider the motion that I made.
Okay, we will not reconsider the motion.
Somebody else might, but I don't.
All right, folks, you are all done. This application is... Sorry for not recognizing you sooner, Tim. I get carried away once in a while trying to get these meetings over.
No problem. Have a good one.
It actually is a very sizable structure.
All right, we have one more conceptual application, is that correct, Joanne?
Yes.
Does that require the motion that Barbara needs to make?
Yes.
Oh, I
It
got
does?
one, it's like a house.
Okay.
Well, actually, I take that back, no, because you're not accepting anything. It's just conceptual, so you don't need to do that.
This one here, right?
Yeah,
Conceptual.
yeah.
Barbara, you concur with Joanne's assessment?
I apologize, I did not hear
Do
your
we need to
assessment.
do the motion that you generally make to help us open up? to
No, this is a conceptual, we do not.
Do you have anything to tell us about Joanne from the staff point of view?
Well, the land is very steep, and many of the regulations that we require as far as the development regulations in the zoning ordinance are not met. So, you know, certainly you can hear this and have your comments, but staff would recommend that they make an appointment with the technical review committee and meet with them and take a look at the regulations before going any further with this.
Even for this person to make a presentation tonight?
No, you should hear the presentation.
Okay.
All right, question?
Barbara?
This is, as a conceptual, notices are not sent to abutters, correct? Because I recall the installation of the tower up on, off of this road, and the amount of interest that was shown in that application was quite high from this neighborhood, where they voiced a lot of concerns, and as I recall, there were some, construction requirements for that tower to go in. It was not an easy parcel to develop. I'd have to pull the minutes to find out what representations were made as to anything future on it, but
Could we confirm one thing, Barbara, before you go any further? The cell tower, that is not the same one that's up behind the Shell station. This is a different cell tower?
no, this is a different
location?
cell tower.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if they were...
If you go up
I
Wallace
got you.
Road, depending on the time of year, you can see it.
Okay, thank you for clearing that.
So I just wanted, because there's nobody here, which when I first saw this, I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be a whole neighborhood here, but there's no notice because it's conceptual. Okay, thank you.
Any other board members have questions for staff? We'll let staff withhold comments until we do the conceptual. John? All right, for your name for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Erin Lambert. I'm with Wilcox and Barton. I'm a site civil engineer. I was hired by the property owner. I apologize she couldn't be here this evening. She's out of state. But Gabriella Demeny owns the property. It's at map 5. Map 5, lot 70. The parcel is about 59 acres in total. It's located in the agricultural zone, as is much of this area. So yes, there is an existing gravel road up to a cell phone tower. Before I was hired, there was another consultant who had done a subdivision plan, and it was brought to the town either through the technical review committee or the planning board. And the information I was given at the time was there were some concerns about the road, and I think there was generally a lack of information about some of the design criteria. It didn't have a terminus, like a cul-de-sac. It didn't have any information on grades. And so what I was asked to do by my client was to lay out a conceptual and get some feedback from the board, recognizing that there are a number of waivers that would be required. She owns the property. She is contemplating doing a development, and so we wanted to get some feedback from the town before she spends money doing things like actual survey and wetlands delineations and whatnot. Although the data that's available to us today between the town's GIS and LiDAR is quite impressive in terms of the topography. So there is an existing gravel road. So just to orient you, this is Rainbow Drive, which ends in a cul-de-sac, and Birch Court is located off of that to the south. And so this is an existing gravel road. We laid out a road that would meet the town standards using that alignment with appropriate horizontal and vertical curves. There are a few things that are difficult to achieve. The biggest one that we first noticed was the length of road. So your town has a maximum length of road of 1,000 feet, which I believe would be measured from where Rainbow Drive meets Norland. So obviously there would need to be a waiver granted for the length of the road. The original plans didn't have any kind of, it just had the straight road up to the cell tower. And we would want to see some form of a turnaround. So this cul-de-sac that's shown on the conceptual plan does meet the town's requirements for a cul-de-sac. I met with the fire department. I met with the fire chief as well as Captain Lavoie to talk to them about some of the issues that they would have with a road of this grade.
What grade are you at?
Yeah, so the town maximum is 8%.
The town requirement is
Maximum grade is 8%.
8%. And where are you?
We are at 10%. Clip this down a little bit. So that would certainly be a waiver that would be needed. And so the road, if you can see, we were trying to follow the existing alignment, but at the same time making it a little less steep. So once you get past where the cul-de-sac would be, the road up to the tower, I want to say hits 15 or 20%. So the road that we're showing in any of the cul-de-sac wouldn't touch grades to that extent. But this section of the road is shown at 10.5%, and then it levels out to 2.5%, excuse me, 2% at the cul-de-sac. So we had a really great conversation about what that means from a firefighting perspective and what they would need to see to, comment positively on an application. We're actually talking about the pumper truck, and the pumper truck can't sit on a slope of actually greater than 5%, or the apparatus doesn't work properly. So even if we had a road that met the maximum grade and was at 8% or less, there would still need to be some accommodations made for driveways to allow for a fire truck, specifically the pumper truck, to park somewhere that was at 5%. So that's possible. That's certainly possible. That was one of their biggest concerns, was how would we, when you come up to a driveway like this, for example, making sure that the driveway that they could pull off would be sufficient. And that's something we looked at and we can do. So we can provide for some of those driveways that are off a slope greater than 5%. We could grade it such that they could turn and not bottom out, all those sort of considerations. The other thing we talked about was, from a firefighting perspective, what would they prefer? They would either want a cistern or for the houses to have fire suppression. They were sort of undecided. There's obviously, you're trying to buy time, and so they like the idea of having sprinklers because that protects the residents of that home. Having a cistern, however, provides a benefit for the entire neighborhood. So they didn't really necessarily have a strong preference at this stage of the game, but we agree that that would be something that would be needed. It would be offered as part of a plan. So the couple of waiver requests that I know we would need, that I would like to just sort of gauge the level of support or concern from the board, which is what I also wanted to get from the fire department, would be the length of road, as well as the grade. Like I said, the maximum grade in town is 8%, and really to accomplish this without grading too far into the hills.
I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. What's the legislature doing with the length of roads now?
I was saying the same thing.
So I think the legislature is changing that.
They are.
And if they pass the legislation, then our standard won't be enforceable.
And I talked to the chief about that exactly, because it does say that the towns can't limit it. However, it has to meet fire code. And so I asked them, what does that mean? And that's when they said it's a little bit vague, but that's where the fire department would have the ability to either recommend or require that it had either the cistern or the sprinklers. So it's not a carte blanche. You can't restrict it.
Well, our ordinance already states that any subdivision of 3 houses or more, right? 3? 3 houses or more requires one or the other. So it's what they told you is in our regulation. We offer the fire department the opportunity to comment on what they would like to see, and for the most part, sprinklers have become less expensive option than cisterns. Cisterns are phenomenally expensive now.
I don't even know how you put a cistern on this property.
No, but they become very expensive cisterns.
No,
And then there's the maintenance issue. Yeah, then you turn it over to the fire department, and then they leak and the hose, so the sprinklers sprinklers are probably going to be what most of the recommendation.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate that.
That's just from what we've learned in the past.
Sure.
Okay, so what other items was on that list?
So the grade, being at 10 to 10.5%, where 8 is your maximum, and wanting to.
So board members, we'll start with the town engineer.
So grade is a concern, not just for fire reasons, but also for traveling public. We're talking steeper grades. It's getting there. So, we're in New England. It snows here, and steeper grades are harder to navigate when it's slick out. And then on top of that, some of these curves have a smaller centerline radius than we require, so that the tighter, shorter curves. On top of that, your vertical curves are shorter than we allow, so that there could be a sight distance issue. And then you combine the vertical with the horizontal curves, it could get into more. The other thing with steep roads, we have a lot of steep roads in town. We are constantly dealing with washout. Any road that would be this steep would need to be, I would say, granite curbed. And I mean, we require closed systems, but I still, the
I mean, even
steepness
at
of-
8%.
Even at 8%, yeah. It's not ideal. I don't see DPW recommending such a large combination of waivers be granted. There's just too many deviations from the regulations. You've got to find some ways to meet most of the, usually a waiver is like you come in and you ask for like one. So, I don't know, it'd be hard for me to straight face tell this board that I recommend this design the way it stands today.
Yeah, we took a look, I agree with you, and we certainly identified all of those. We took a look at AASHTO in terms of the design speed, and so the town standards align more with a road that would be posted at 30, so the design speed is 35. So if the road were posted at 25, it comes closer to meeting on most, if not all of those, not the grade. AASHTO's silent on the grade, but in terms
Yeah.
of horizontal and vertical curves.
So, AASHTO is a guide.
Sure.
Ours are regulations.
Fully understand.
So there's a difference there. I understand what you're saying because AASHTO is completely backed by years of data and everything. So there's a little bit to that. It's just the grade. I also, which we haven't touched on here tonight, is recently in our zoning ordinance, the steep slope criteria changed for buildable area. So 20% slope or steeper is not considered buildable area. And just measuring the distance of a lot of these contours, I'm not sure how much buildable area you even have here for when you go to your yield plan. There's a lot of challenges with this.
What's the date of that zoning?
It's
Brand new,
it just
just
passed
passed
in
at town
March.
meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say it was based on your prior, because we did do a
Yeah.
color-coded.
So.
of all
Based on the prior.
Yeah, but it
what
was,
it?
I just
Was it
submitted,
March
so.
8th or?
No, it's right here.
10th?
March
Oh,
10th
is it
and
right?
26th. The new zoning.
That's on the website now, right? Okay.
Scott, I got a question. Could you put this into perspective for me on what the steepest hill in town, what grade that would be?
Steepest hill.
Like maybe
Yeah,
Terrell Hill, let's just go with
Bottom
Terrell
of
Hill.
Terrell
No.
is way steeper
It's-
than we would ever allow
It's,
today.
what's the one off the Mountain Base Road that goes up and over to Back Mountain
Right,
Road?
the sugar house, every time.
What's the name of that
Three
road?
houses up from there.
Yeah,
It's
Summit Road, the
No,
one
no,
that
no.
goes.
Well, Summit Road's steep, yeah, but if you go up Mountain Base Road, up by where the trolley.
Tipping Rock.
Tipping Rock.
Tipping Rock.
That's a steep road.
Tipping Rock's
But
probably.
you see, those are all pre-existing roads.
Yeah, those are
and-
farm roads. Even Terrell's a old farm road that
What would be the grade of Terrell Hill?
Don't
I
know.
honestly don't
You have to
know.
go and measure it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
What would Worthley Hill be? At Tyler, that's like taking off, right?
Just give me a reference point of what we're talking about for a grade of where 10% would be.
We don't know because we don't do topo
You haven't
on the roads.
developed any roads in Goffstown in the last 5 years?
We haven't done anything at 10%.
What's 5% look like?
I don't know, just go find a map.
What's
a road
zero,
plan,
Tim?
And go take a ride on
Zero's
it.
flat, right?
Huh? My driveway's 2%.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, you know
I was
the
gonna say,
gully,
that's
the
my car,
gully
get
after
my
my
level
house?
for you.
Yes.
But I don't have an exact car.
Okay.
Well, what's
Okay.
8%? Which?
That's
what was the
8 feet
last
in every
road?
100. That's 8%. It rises 8 feet in 100 feet.
Hey, that's a good explanation. Thank you. I
That's
like
8%.
that. Okay. All right. That's fair.
I didn't
All
know
right.
that's what you were looking for, yeah.
I don't know what I'm looking for.
But
I'm just
we
trying
can't tell
to
you what a road
dig.
is unless
He's
we went
looking
out there
for
and shot the
roads,
grades
what
on
he's
it.
looking for.
Okay.
Then we'd know all
All
the
right.
steeper
So
roads.
All right,
so
okay,
feet
all
over-
right.
feet
All right,
over-
so-
Thank you. Sorry.
I have a question for you, Aaron. What are you doing coming off of Rainbow Drive's existing cul-de-sac to access your proposed road? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's not. It would look like something like this, but I'm not, this isn't.
I mean, it looks like a left-hand turn.
It does.
It looks like it's another road
We
completely.
can make it a rotary.
I'm just envisioning it not being
Yeah.
wide enough for vehicles to make that corner to go up that
I
road.
liked you until a minute ago.
I mean, could you show it kind of looks like a goat path turning into a town road, and I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to upgrade all of that and have that be a contiguous road.
And what do you do with the cul-de-sac at the end of the existing Rainbow Drive?
We would have to work with the town and find out what we're
What they
allowed to
want.
do, what they would want us to do.
In some cases, when you do that road extension, you straighten out the line
Yeah.
where the bubble is,
Correct.
remove the pavement,
And have it be more
reseed it,
continuous.
extend driveways, and
And
do something with it.
I think it would depend too if it were the purview of the board that this be a private road, and so if, like, let's say that this were the end of the public way, you would need to still keep that for vehicle
Please
turnarounds.
don't bring up the word private road in Goffstown,
Okay,
because what happens is, and I'll tell you right out, is that people will vote for the private road and they'll get it, and then 10 years from now, when they don't have enough money to pave it, they petition the Board of Selectmen to take the road over, and the Board of Selectmen inevitably takes the road over. So I would never vote for a private road in the town of Goffstown, personally.
I appreciate
That's
that
what the board
feedback.
feels.
I have a question.
Please, Barbara.
What about our open space ordinance?
So I was just going to say that when it was my turn. So our zoning ordinance contains the open space ordinance, which has been revised in this latest update of 2026.
Perfect.
And you need, so if any lot that has 20 acres or more, it's mandatory that you do an open space, which means that you need to do a yield plan that would show how many lots you would get in a conventional subdivision, and then that's the maximum that you could get in an open space. But also, you cannot have more than, I think it's 5, where did I write that down?
5.
5 lots, unless they are each 10 acres or more.
I
So
think
this-
that's sort of backwards. I think it's backwards, because you can obviously have an open space development with more than 5 lots that are not 10 acres or more.
Right, that's what I was getting to. So if you're doing more than 5 lots, I said that backwards.
Yeah.
If you're doing more than 5,
I wasn't even there yet,
My
so
brain
kudos.
just clicked. If you're doing more than 5 lots, they could be
They either
whatever
need to be
zone
more
you're
than
in.
10 acres, or they need to conform and be an open
Exactly,
space. Okay,
so
perfect.
otherwise you have to stick with 10 acres.
Okay, perfect.
Some people just have to realize that not all land in Goffstown is buildable land. As much as we'd love to see your applicants succeed, sometimes it just can't be done. Okay, any other of those? I've been putting a big W next to your questions, which are waiver questions. Did you have more than those
No,
two?
those are the big ones.
The grade and the length of the road.
Right.
Okay.
But I think that you've got to deal with the open space. Well, I think those, the whole waiver thing. These are not, I mean, the lots on one side, I get, but the lots on the far side don't look like great lots. It looks like the footprint for any sort of buildable area is stretching it.
Especially when the buildable area touches 3 points of the setbacks.
Yeah. So I think your lots are a little bit of a stretch as I look at them. I also might want to pull the folder for the tower approval to see what happened at the public hearing, because there was a lot of interest in that application.
What kind of an easement is for the tower? That's something else you've got to consider. Do they have?
Yes,
And
yeah,
do
so
they
there's
all-
an easement on the road in that configuration, and then it expires after a certain period of time. So that's certainly something the applicant is keeping in mind with
But I mean, you don't
future.
have to get relief from the applicant, the tower's easement to build a road there. You own the land.
Yeah,
and-
they own the land. They have
and
an
the
easement.
is,
They have an easement on the road
Changeable.
and a land lease for the tower.
all right,
That's my understanding.
board members?
Question.
David.
Aaron, you show no buildable area on your lot 7, which lot 7 appears to have a 30-foot corridor going back out the Rainbow. Is the
Yeah, lot-
30-foot corridor is not suitable for a
Wetlands.
driveway?
You're saying through here? Yeah, there's wetlands, and the contours that we have and where wetlands were shown don't make sense, so it's not necessarily viable until someone did further review. This would be the best place for access. However, I don't know what's going on here. The wetlands here, this is actually the low point, so they don't really make sense. But yes, your question is valid, and that needs to be further evaluated before we determine if that's a viable lot.
Anybody else? So, Aaron, are you have answers that you wanted? You have more questions at this time?
No, I think this was very helpful. I appreciate all the information. I guess I have to step ahead. Let me think. I think we need to go back to the drawing board and look at some of these things, and I think our next path, it sounds like, would be, rather than coming to this board, would be to go through the technical review committee and really have a detailed discussion about some of those technical items, so I appreciate that. I guess my question for the board would just be, if we got down the road, the biggest thing for me is the grade, and just not knowing if that's something that, you know, if we provided things that the fire department felt okay about, I wanted to just sort of get a litmus test from the board as to whether or not, because obviously we live in New England and there's concerns about steep slopes, and I didn't know if the board had, at this point, could give us any guidance on whether it's a hard no, or you feel like there are some things that we could work with staff and potentially get there.
We've already heard that from the town engineer that he suspects that DPW would not recommend a 10% road. The planning board, even though it makes its own decisions, oftentimes listens to what the public works department and other departments have to say and takes their advice. We are on a slippery slope in my book, because once you grant anybody a 10% road, you're opening the door for a lot of 10% roads. They're going to come in for more undevelopable land and all the problems that come with it. So if you want an individual vote from board members, I think it's pretty clear that a 10% road is probably not going to fly. 8% is what you need to come back with.
Well, and I think the yield plan and the open space plan and the steep slopes exercise is going to really tell you how many lots you can get here to even decide if you need a road that far.
You can do 10% driveways,
Right.
but you can't do 10% roads. And anything over NFPA standards, which is what, 600, not 300 or 600?
300 starts
300
triggering
feet.
some other criteria.
Driveway, like you're
NFPA
saying?
requirements kick in over 300 feet for driveways, which is, you probably already know them, right?
Yep.
And we do go by the NFPA standards for driveway construction.
Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Joanne, do you have anything else for this board tonight?
Excuse me,
We have to
I
sign Tim's
don't have
paper?
anything else, but we do have, the board needs to sign Tim's
That's what I just said, sign Tim's
appointment
paper.
papers for the CIP, excuse me. And there's a plan here for you to sign.
To sign, I got a message from Patty.
And I need to swear you in for the EDC and CIP.
What did we decide about the regulations? Are we going to deal with those at the next meeting?
On the 14th, I think.
Pardon me, Tim?
The regulations we went over at the last meeting. We were giving Chip and Rudy a month to go over those again, right?
Joanne's diligently working on those. She keeps sending me emails about
Two in there, I
them,
think.
tucking away for later.
You needed to sign it.
I don't.
Because there was a lot of staff work that, after those comments that we went through last time.
I went through all the comments that were included in the minutes so far, but I had a few questions that, you know, they were the technical things
Mark.
that Scott has to look
I gotta
at.
sign the back.
And
Oh, sorry.
there were a couple of things that I wasn't sure, and then we still have to write a section for the open space.
Well, I'm sure that's, because there's that open space subcommittee that's going to have to deal with that. I don't, as a board at this point, I want to get these done.
But
Mark.
don't you want to include
Turn
that
around to
in
the rest
there?
of the table.
I want to
Before
get these
they're adopted.
development regs done. I don't think we necessarily even need a public hearing. If we want to do these development regs overall,
You can sign both copies.
public hearing and adopt them, that's fine. And then
And
come
then
in with the
later insert the
recommendation
others.
for the open space.
Okay.
I don't want to hold this up. I mean, it's, I suppose at this point, what difference does it make? But
The other thing
Do I
we're
sign
seeing,
my own?
Well, if we sign
Ah,
this
you're a
thing,
planning
then
board
it's gonna
member.
mess that lady up.
Oh, no, you don't sign for yourself.
Okay, I was wondering, I'm like,
My
that's
mistake,
long
Tim,
way
I
along.
wasn't here.
another thing that we're seeing now for certain applications is that, say that you have a single family and you've added an ADU, whether it's attached or not. And then people are now coming in, mostly to TRC so far, with, oh, I'd like to add a duplex to the lot and then call it a multifamily project. So we've been seeing a few of those. And then my question was, does the ADU count as a unit as you're counting up the number of units in the project? And I sent something out on Plan Link the other day, but no one's answered me. I think probably no one has seen this before, because it's just kind of...
So somebody has a single family residence, there's an ADU up until this point probably attached,
Probably attached, yeah.
and so what's TRC seeing a request for?
And then, so TRC is seeking a request for a multifamily project. So then what they're doing is they're adding, or they're proposing to add, a duplex on the lot as well. So now
So
you
there'd
have
be 4 units.
4 units. So it's considered multifamily, but...
Are you talking about the one that we've had some emails back and forth about? That has an ADU in it, the existing one?
I'm talking about the one we saw...
You're not talking about anything in specific.
No, you're not.
You're not talking about anything
You guys
specific.
talk about this at your offices later.
But I'm trying to understand, when you say they're adding a duplex, it's a new structure.
Correct,
They're adding a new structure.
right.
And under what regulations are we considering this?
Multifamily.
But multifamily has to, in certain zone, right, only?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And they have water and sewer and all
Well,
of that.
that's, as long as they're gonna meet the statute and meet the requirement.
So my
But
first
we don't wanna talk about it.
No,
I'm
this
not
is a
talking about
general
a
thing.
specific one, I'm
No.
talking in general. My question is, if we have a project like this, do we include the ADU as a unit? Because technically, it can't stand on its own as a unit, because it needs that
Yes, it should be
connection to the
included as a
single
unit.
family.
Included as a unit.
And I'm
because
trying to find out what other towns are doing, but apparently, they haven't come across this yet.
It needs to be included as a unit because an ADU is not just for family members anymore, it's for rental property. So it's a unit. And let them challenge us in court if we have to worry about it. We gotta take a stand sometime here as a board and not just keep backing off and backing off.
No, I think the ADU is a unit. They pay an impact fee for it, right? It's a unit.
They pay sewer and water hookup fees, they pay all kinds of accessibility fees for it. It's a unit.
Okay.
It's not like Grandma and Grandpa are gonna live there anymore. Now it's $2,500 a month for somebody to live there, and that's what it is. It's a rental, it's an apartment, with only needs one parking space though. I drive up past my house, past a place that is, I'm not gonna put a name on it, and there are 4 cars parking on the edge of the road now, on the grass, in the front yard.
Thank you, representatives.
Thank you, representatives in this great state of New Hampshire. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn, they're filled in for Phil.
I didn't, you did.
Me.
Taking the
Chop,
lead.
chop your people.
I just do my normal second.
I said 8:30. my husband.
There we go.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Abstention, motion passes. We are done at 8:25, Barbara.
Thanks, GT.
Thank you, G.